sad news coming to us this morning is that former Juventus, Sampdoria, Chelsea player Gianluca Vialli has passed away at the age of 58 after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. The tributes are flooding in. Remember, text in your tributes to Gianluca Vialli, 81089. Give us a call as well, 03717 223344. Tweet us at talkSPORT. We are going to hear from a number of former players who played with him during his time at Chelsea. Martin Keown had many battles with Gianluca Vialli on the pitch. Martin, when you think of Vialli, not just as a player, but as a person, as a man as well, what sort of springs to mind?
Well, class. He was a real class act. I had many battles with him on the pitch. It's really stunning news because we think of him as someone who was so full of life and energy in his personality, and he's been taken from us so very young. So it's really very shocking. Of course, did exceptionally well with Italy alongside Mancini recently. And of course, as a manager, he went on to be equally successful. But as a player, I really tested him. And his professionalism, his composure, he was absolute class. So this is really shocking, and it resonates across the whole of football throughout Europe, throughout the world, because he was an ambassador for his country and a truly great man and an outstanding footballer.
Yeah, you think of some of the honours. Sampdoria won the league in Sampdoria in 1990-91, Coppa Italia 3 times, the Supercoppa as well, UEFA Cup, European Cup runner-up, Juventus, numerous trophies, Chelsea as well, FA Cup in 96-97, League Cup, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, his success as a manager. Crookie, we were just talking outside, when you think of the Chelsea revolution and sort of just superstar, big-name players coming to the Premier League, you immediately think of Gianluca Vialli, don't you? Just Gianluca Vialli, just because of what he'd done with Juventus as well prior.
Yeah, not even just Chelsea. Actually, I think he was a trailblazer because if you go back to the early to mid 1990s, you didn't get the influx of foreign players you have now. You think of Cantona, Zola, Bergkamp, who Martin would have played with, and Vialli as the original foreign superstars that came into the Premier League. He was so graceful, scored so many great goals. He was an absolute gentleman. And I think in many ways, you look at him and Ruud Gullit as being part of the Chelsea revolution, really. It was once they started to come in that Chelsea really took flight as a football club, and obviously they're now one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And I think without the likes of Vialli and Gullit, maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, you think of him as well as being so softly spoken. Every time you see him in interviews, obviously picked up English very, very quickly, didn't he? And then in interviews of recent, obviously alongside Roberto Mancini and the Italian Dugger, every time you see him speak, so kind, so warm.
Yeah, and the way he dressed, the way he held himself, I just think he was a good example to Chelsea Football Club as a player coming in there. If you're a young player, you want to learn off, watch, work alongside the best, and he certainly was. I gave him a real hard time, as I say, and I blame David Platt for that, because David Platt he kept talking on and on about this guy, Vialli, what a player, the way he was, and I couldn't wait to play against him. In fact, I'm pretty pleased I apologised to him. I've had to do that quite a few times to former opponents, and he was so graceful when I was talking. No, I understand, you have to play your way, I play my way. So we ended up as friends, but it was very difficult to fall out with Vialli because he was so classy in the way that he dealt with people.
Yeah, keep your tributes coming in. I'm going to read out a few here. Remember, you can tweet us at talkSPORT, text us 81089. I got this one in from James. James Dawn, he says, kids take for granted these days the top foreign superstar players coming to the Premier League. For me, it will always be Cantona, Bergkamp, Gullit, Zola and Vialli, who were the true trailblazers. Another text is coming, says, to me, Vialli was the first real superstars to sign for an English club. There was obviously some world-class players and big-name players, but none to his stature. Rest in peace, Luca. And that, I guess, goes to the point you were making. Obviously, we do take it for granted now when we see all the big superstars come in because of the amount of money in the Premier League. But, when he came, 96, 97, it wasn't that, was it? We were trying to get these superstars from Serie A, and he was one of the first ones.
And it was an incredible move that he made, having just won the Champions League with Juventus. They were very much the powerhouse of European football at that time. And he wasn't joining one of the big clubs in English football. Chelsea, as I say, weren't the club they are today. So to make that move to London, he endeared himself to Chelsea supporters straight away because of his ability, because of the way he conducted himself. And I think you're seeing here, there's a message from a Tottenham fan that says he's got tears in his eyes over the loss of Vialli. He was a player I watched and remember with a smile on my face. I remember actually, as a young boy, I used to watch Portsmouth on quite a regular basis, and they drew Chelsea. I think it was an FA Cup quarter-final, and I was so excited to go to Fratton Park and see Vialli. He was unused sub that day, actually, which was disappointing. But I think the fact that so many rival football fans, we know how tribal football can be, are sending their condolences and sending their love for Vialli, tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, I love this text that's just come in. It says, rest in peace, Luca Vialli. What a player he was, and was iconic with his sweatbands. And I remember this as well as a kid. The Umbro turtleneck under his shirt as well. Do you remember? Always used to wear that. I used to think it's not that cold, but always used to wear that. He had that. That was his iconic thing. It was almost like Cantona had sort of the upturn and the collar. He had always the Umbro sweatshirt underneath.
His look,
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, obviously condolences to his family. I think he's settled in London. So much did he embrace everything.
He loved London,
this country,
didn't he?
Yes, and him and Ray Wilkins as well as assistant manager. The two of them now have passed away. It seems far too early.
I've seen a tweet from Ross Wilkins, actually, Ray's son, saying that Vialli was the one true friend that Ray had in football. So he'll be feeling the loss this morning as well.
Yeah, we always look at sort of Chelsea as the club now, and a lot of people will point to the money and the influx of players under Roman Abramovich. But again, you think of that early 90s and the players coming through that came in, Di Matteo, Vialli, Zola. That was the start of it, wasn't it? I mean, there'll be a lot of fans of a certain age that will only think of Roman Abramovich and that money coming in. But when you think of how Chelsea, the upturn in terms of winning trophies, becoming quote-unquote a big club, it was because of Vialli coming in.
It was the original sexy football, wasn't it? With those players in the Chelsea team, and obviously Ruud Gullit as well. And I think in some ways, because of people like Vialli, Chelsea at that time were maybe a lot of people's second team, if you like, because they had, players of his calibre, players of his character. And that's before you even start talking about how good he was as a centre-forward. I mean, Martin is in a far better position than us to testify to that. But what a terrific player he was as well for club and country.
That's not in question. It's those sometimes, what stands out is the person, isn't it? Because you competitors, you adversaries, you're in there, you're tussling, he's a good man, and we've lost a good man today, and it's shocking, and it's interesting. We've got a lot of Chelsea fans here in the building. There's people in tears here, and rarely do you see that. I think he's left a huge mark on English football since he's been here, in the way he's conducted himself, the way he's played, the way he's carried himself. And as I say, he's come out of that Italian national team now as well, and that's a huge loss for them also.
Yeah, we've spoken about him as a player and what he did for Chelsea as a player, and not just Chelsea, obviously Sampdoria, Juventus, but obviously mainly Chelsea because we're discussing that. But you forget what he did as a manager for Chelsea. So FA Cup, League Cup, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, Super Cup as well.
Not an easy transition, is it?
Not an easy transition.
You saw how difficult that was for a recent player. Frank Lampard tried to do that. There's almost an extra burden on them. But not for him. Cup Winners' Cup he won, Super Cup. You have to say he had that ingredients. He had that respect of the players. He tactically did very well. He basically had it all before him.
Yeah, and Chelsea fans would tell you how much those trophies meant to them as well, because again, it wasn't the Chelsea that we know now that are used to winning big trophies year after year. That wasn't the case in the mid-1990s. The fact he managed to deliver so much success as player and manager really rewrote the history of that football club. I think if you spoke to a lot of Chelsea fans, our own Sam Matterface is a huge Chelsea fan. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing that this morning. He will tell you that 97 FA Cup final is one of the best days of his life.
Yeah, a couple of texts coming in. I say a couple, hundreds of texts coming. I'm going to read out a couple now. Rest in peace, Luca. This one says, I'll always remember him playing in Russia for Chelsea in the snow. He had a worldie as usual and would cheekily throwing snowballs at some of the players. What's this one? Had tears in my eyes on hearing the sad news that Luca Vialli had passed away. I'm a lifelong United fan, but Gianni was such a gent on and off the pitch and was a fantastic player. He will solely be missed. And this one as well, from Arsenal fans, as you mentioned, I mean, it's just an outpouring from everyone here. Even growing up as an Arsenal fan, when I scored a goal in the back garden, I'd always pretend to be Gianluca Vialli, one of my all-time favourite players. Rest in peace, Gianluca. Keep your tributes coming in, 810 829 to text us, tweet us. As well at talkSPORT. Give us a call as well, 03717 223344.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.